Good evening, St Columba. This evening's bedtime story is Slug Needs a Hug by Jean Wills and Tony Ross. It might be a bit of a tongue twister this evening because it's a rhyming story. Once upon a timey, there was a little slimy, spotty, shiny, whiny slug. He was wet and weedy, very, very needy, and always greedy for a hug. His mummy didn't hug him. It began to bug him, and he wondered why, oh why. Is she never sugly because I am so ugly? Said Sluggy with a soggy little sigh. He spoke to the other creatures with very different features and asked them what they thought to do to make himself more huggable, less slithery and sluggable, for sadly, Sluggy didn't have a clue. Perhaps if you were furrier and fluffier and purrier, said Kitten, then your mum would hug you tight. So Slug put on a woolly hat with a picture of a cat on it and a furry jacket, just in case she might. You look funny, chummy. If you want a hug from Mummy, said Bird, you need some feathers and a beak. Piglet roared with laughter. If it's a hug, Slug, you're after, it needs trotters and a tail and a squeak. With Trotter's tail and coat and beak and feathers, Slug met Goat, who told him he looked a little weird. If you want a hug, my friend, you need horns stuck on the end, and get yourself a handsome goatee beard. Slug did as Goat suggested, and he sensibly invested in some horns and a moustache made out of string. Moth looked aghast and muttered and whispered as he fluttered, Slug, you need some wings, you silly little thing. Slug made himself a pair. He couldn't fly into the air. His wings were scarlet petals from a rose. Although he smelt delightful, Fox declared that he looked frightful and he'd never get a hug without a nose. Should I lose the beak, thought Slug, if I really want a hug? Would Mummy love me more with just a snout? There was very little space to wear them both upon his face, but Sluggy did, in case of any doubt. Slug gazed into the brook at his astonishing new look and barely recognised his own reflection. If she doesn't hug you now, then she never will, said Cow, and she gave the Slug a head-to-tail inspection. Hoping Cow was right, Slug chugged slowly home that night to show his mum his fabulous disguise. But after all he'd done, she didn't recognise her son. Mother, it's me, said Slug. Surprise! But I love you as you are. You're the sweetest slug by far, said Ma. You've been very greatly missed. You're beautiful and charming. If I could, I'd hug you, darling. But alas, she had no arms, and so they kissed. Good night, sleep tight, St Columba, and hope to see you all soon.